Who that girl? Y'all recognize that girl? Ah! Hey YouTube fam, it's Francina Simone, and I got some tea. So before I get into all that, I just I haven't been here since like April or March or something, so I figured I should do a little hey, what I've been up to. I was gonna lie and tell y'all that I was working on my book because Smash It comes out fall 2020. But that would have been a motherfucking lie. I turned that book in May and on my first edit, and it's in line edits now, so I won't be getting that back for even a more few months. So it's a lie. I have been working on nothing. I've just been relaxing, and I have talked about this a lot on my channel. I work a lot when I get into the mojo and the drive of getting what I want to get done. I go overboard, and the summer months for publishing is a really slow time. Like, not much happens. I mean, like, a lot's been happening, I think, for me on Smash It, but nothing that's, like, my hands are directly in. It's, like, amazing stuff that's just been happening because I wrote the book, which, by the way, huge news to come, that I'm excited to, like, tell everybody about, but maybe that'll be sometime next year. I don't know. Everything works super slow. And also the cover is being worked on as we speak, so stay tuned for some type of cover reveal sometime next year. I don't know when that's gonna happen. But like I said, I have just been kind of relaxing lately. I feel like it's so important for me to just like learn how to chill, which isn't easy for me. So it takes me like 2 months to like be okay with relaxing, and then I relax for like a month, and then I get bored. So a girl is blessed, slightly stressed, and I'm not so pressed about it. So let's get into the regular tea of what's been going on lately. So as my vacations go, I usually don't frequent online that much, or when I do, I'm just like being silly, talking about like what I'm reading or what I'm watching or just some random thoughts. I don't really like to get on social media that much when I'm supposed to be like decompressing, because I do see social media as work in a sense. It's part of what I do, as an author and as a booktuber even, but so it's not really relaxing. However, I will say I will go on. My timeline has been like real detox lately, so usually it's all like rainbows and flowers. And I saw this post come on, and people were like, "Booktube is all up in the drama again," and I was like, "How y'all in drama? Like, there ain't even nothing happening. No books coming out. It's summertime. There's nothing happening. So what's going on?" And I saw this nugget, and I know that this sparked a lot of more conversation about the same old fucking things that people are often talking about. And I kind of I did feel really inspired, I think, to sit down and take a moment to talk about some of the things that I think aren't talked about for real in BookTube. Let me not say that, because I don't want to like dismiss things that people have said that I haven't personally seen, because the bitch is oblivious to half this shit that be going on. But I did want to come in, and I wanted to use my own words and my own thoughts and talk about an issue that I think is more so prevalent than what people usually bring up, and it's the root cause, the illness, not the symptoms. And I kind of boiled it down to two main things. Honestly, it goes way deeper than that, but let's just kind of go like this, because the bitch ain't got all day to be making this video, and I want to be under 15 minutes, so let's go. So the first issue that I think stems from, that always seems to be at the root of drama, is y'all do not know how to categorize friendships in a way that is not toxic. Y'all don't even know how to do that shit, but it ain't your fault. I think the majority of us, or a huge chunk of us, I should not say majority, but a huge chunk of us are American, or we come from very capitalistic cultural societies in which everything is transactional, including all of our relationships. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. It depends on how you view transactional relationships, whether you think that's negative or not. But I think at the base of all relationships, you either give or take something, and that is transactional. But I think, especially as Americans, and that's the only viewpoint that I can really speak on, we have very extremes when it comes to ideas of relationships. Either they are highly shallow or they're super fucking deep. And the truth of it is that that's not how relationships work. There's so many different levels to relationships, and there's so much more to that. And I think the idea of making them very like two-toned like that causes a lot of shame and guilt. Either you feel shame because what you thought was a deep relationship, someone else treated as what you think is a shallow relationship, which makes you feel rejected, and so you feel shame, or you feel guilty because you realize that someone thinks your relationship is much deeper than what you want to give to them. You ain't got time, you ain't got all that empathy. You're just like, bitch, I did one book thing with you, why you still talking to me? Like, can we move on? And what I want to say is that they're like, one, relationships are so much more than that, right? You can be friendly with people and not be friends. You can be someone who you're only looking for more friendly relationships. Maybe you have enough relationships where you're very intimate with the very select few people in your life and you don't want any more intimate relationships because y'all, fucking news alert, PSA, stop what you're doing. Listen to this. You don't have enough energy and time in the world to be a good friend to everybody that you call a friend. Do you know how much effort that takes? Do you know how much empathy that takes? Do you know how much time to listen to that person, to give to this person, to give this person opportunities to give to you that this takes? And sometimes you just want to be left motherfucking alone. Sometimes you need to pay attention to yourself. And by sometimes, I mean like 90% of the time, you need to be paying attention to yourself. Not all wrapped up in somebody else's jizz. So like if you're consistently wrapped up in all of these people you consider friends, and that's what you think is a good friend, bitch, when you got time for you? When's your cup getting full? Because even giving people the opportunity to give to you is time consuming. And that's a lot of energy that sometimes you just ain't got. Like, damn, like, thanks for treating me, but I really didn't want to leave my house today. There's so much to that. So I think we really, the ultimate goal here is just sit down and ask yourself, what do you want from these relationships that you make with people on Booktube? I know that for some of us, when you're an adult, it is really hard to make friends. You come into these spaces as an adult and, you know, like you're used to making friends as a child. You guys go to school together, you're around this person all the time, you guys have some just a general interest, you're friends. And then you become an adult, and where do you make your friends? At work? Well, what if your work doesn't require you to be around a lot of people that you have a lot of stock to choose from? Then you end up with very shallow relationships that you don't really consider friendships, and you feel like you're empty, like you don't really have friends, or the friends that you have don't really care about you. And in all reality, you just have some very shallow relationships with some work people, and that is okay. You ain't got to be close friends with them. You just need friends elsewhere, or you're lacking in a space that you want to fill with a certain type of friend. And I think we need to ask ourselves, I think Booktube is a great place to go to because we have so many similar interests to find those deeper connections with people. But you have to ask yourself, what kind of actual friendships do you want? Do you want deep level connections with people? Do you want to fill up more of your shallow connections with people where these are the people you have fun with? Pure fun, not deep fun, pure fun. We laugh and we giggle about books, and then I'm out, bitch, because I got me other stuff to do. I got my real friends. I got my significant other that I really want to touch and have fun with. And y'all are just a midnight snack when a bitch is reading a book. Like, there are so many different kinds of levels of friendships that you can have. And I think once you're honest and you set some serious boundaries for yourself on that, and do not allow shame and guilt to seep in when people meet those boundaries and they're a little upset because, oh, maybe they wanted to have a deep friendship with you and you're like, I ain't got time for that in my life. I mean, you ain't got to be a bitch about it, but you get what I'm saying. You know, like when you set those boundaries, don't feel bad and then like put your boundaries down because you don't want to put somebody out, or, oh, you realize you did want a deep friendship with someone, but they have a boundary and they really don't want any more deep friendships, or maybe it takes for them a significant more amount of time to develop that kind of relationship than you do. You know, like don't be put out. Like your feelings might get hurt, bitch. Lick your wounds. Realize that you were a living, breathing person, that you were alive, that sometimes you will have your feelings hurt because things aren't met to your expectations on your timeline when you want them, and that sometimes you have to be patient for other people, but it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So gather yourself and realize that, you know, what you want maybe they can't give, or what you want, maybe someone isn't giving enough to someone else, and be okay with that. And just enjoy what you do have and what is growing and what is nourishing, and continue to plant your seeds and water your flowers in the gardens of your choice. And like, when things get disrupted, don't get too ruffled. It's all right. Sometimes shit ain't got nothing to do with you except for your shit. And one more side note that I wanted to talk about, something that often comes up, is the idea that big booktubers aren't open to being friends with smaller booktubers, or the feeling of hierarchy. And I really want to be honest right here and say, bitch, that ain't got nothing to do with nobody but you. You upset. And I'm just give you a second. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying it because, honestly, Booktube has seasons. There's the 2012 crowd, who probably ain't really even here anymore. There's the 2014 to 15 crowd who came up. There's the 2015 to 16 crowd. There's the 2018 and on crowd. There's so many different seasons that happen on Booktube, and the Booktubers who come together during those seasons go through different trials and tribulations of their time period and are bonded because of that. They go to events together because of that. They grow up together in their channel sizes because of that, and they are comfortable with each other. They become friends, and not all of them are friends. Very specific subgroups do happen in there. Some of them are friends because of very specific personal fucking reasons. It ain't got shit to do with channel count, because even if you look at it, a lot of these people have variations in their channel count, and maybe because of something that they decide to do together is highly beneficial to all of them, in which their channel counts grow substantially. But it has nothing to do with we're friends because of clout chasing or this and that. Like, most of the people that I know who are big booktubers really are kind of uncomfortable with the amount of attention that they get, because they're just fucking normal people who make videos about books. I take myself as a very self-aware person, and I have a serious hard time understanding the impact that I have on other people. And sometimes when people talk to me and I'm like, damn bitch, you know more about me than I do. People be quoting me in my videos and I'm like, damn bitch, who said that? That is some smart shit. And people be like, bitch, you said that. And I'm like, damn, she was a smart bitch. Pass Francina, go girl, who that hoe? Like, honestly, I just don't have the wherewithal, because at the end of the day, other booktubers, everyone who is a booktuber should understand that we sit alone in our room in front of a camera. You ain't no different than anybody else. Just because more people be watching on the other end doesn't mean shit on the daily. But people go through seasons, and it's okay to make friendship groups with people from your season. That doesn't mean that you have to be friends with someone who is doing it longer. And sometimes people who are doing it for a shorter period of time blow up faster than you do. But again, that ain't got shit to do with you, bitch. Ain't got shit. But I digress, because this kind of moves into the next topic. Now, the second reason why I think a lot of drama tends to crop up on Booktube, and this is probably the biggest one, y'all be unpacking your personal traumas online instead of working through them. So I'm going to get real here, and this kind of conversation can be highly uncomfortable, I think, for a lot of people, especially if you're not used to working through your issues and your traumas. Like, I honestly want to be like, this is probably the most grown-up, adult-ish thing you can do. Bitch, work through your trauma. I don't care how old you are, work through your trauma. If you 12-year-old sitting on the other side looking at me like, who is this bitch? Work through your trauma. Yes. But what I'm getting at here is, I think this is a highly uncomfortable conversation to have, because it opens up a lot of insecurities. And as people, we do not like our insecurities to be opened up. We don't like looking at our insecurities, because we tend to feel shame and guilt about our insecurities. And one of the biggest and hardest I think emotions to overcome is shame, because it leads to fear, which leads to anger, which leads to suffering. We tend to really hide from those emotions because we've been taught at a very young age when these traumatic things happen to us. And trauma can be something small, it can be something big. It's not always a huge life-altering experience that, other people look at you and go, damn girl. Like, trauma can be literally, you were on the playground and some girl came up to you and said, bitch, you ugly, and walked off. And you're just like, and while no one has ever called you ugly before and no one has ever said these things to you before, you feel in that moment, why would someone say this to me? especially if it's not true. And it makes you call into question what everyone has ever told you before. Have they lied to you? And then it makes you feel shame and guilt for thinking that people who love you lie to you. It makes you feel shame and guilt because you slightly believe her. It makes you feel shame and guilt because she has made you in that moment question yourself and what you believe in yourself. And because you feel all of those things and they are uncomfortable, you, instead of feeling those, you lock them away, you run away from them, and you learn from that moment. Whenever you feel anything like that, you run from it. You don't stop and go, but who the fuck this bitch thinks she is? Why she call me that? What's going on with her today? Clearly, she going through some shit. Like, you know, you're not able to say, okay, this isn't about me. This is about somebody else, especially when you're young, right? And most of these types of traumas happen to us when we're very young and we don't have the tools that we need to really deal with them, especially if you got parents who don't know how to deal with their trauma and also be passing on batons of trauma onto you like life is a motherfucking relay race. I'm telling you now, if you've got one of those parents, you need to start being like, I ain't running this relay. Keep the baton to yourself, Betty. We ain't passing on that generational trauma. Not here. So with all of that, I'm going to jump right into it. I think one of the biggest issues on Booktube is the way that we categorize success, how we measure success. We measure it based on intangible things like sub count. We measure it based off of friendship groups, likes, retweets. We base it off of shit that has nothing to do with what we can get for ourselves. And also the fact that if you live in a capitalistic society, you definitely wrap yourself up in all of that stuff. Success is basically how you value yourself. And on top of that, it's always based on intangible things, like I just said. And in a nutshell, success is intangible. Success is not something you can have, especially not if it's based off of how other people value you. If it's based off of, if I can open this peanut jar, today would have been a success because I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That is something you can measure because it is something you were in control of. If your success is based off of some metric system that you're not in control of, or if you count some bigger booktubers' amount of success based off of sub count, their friendship groups, their likes and retweets, their sponsorships, how many books publishers send them, those are all metrics that if you think if you think those metrics are signs of failure, all of a sudden that person becomes a failure. Am I correct? If you can legitimately change your mind that fast and that person can go from a success to a fucking failure, that means success is not tangible and it does not exist. And the real note on this is that, and I will be completely honest with you, when you measure success in intangible means, as soon as you start to arrive at that intangible mean, success for you has changed. When you thought getting 5,000 subscribers would be a success when you first started your channel because you were like, damn, if I could just get 1,000, I'd be golden. Then that 1,000 turned into 5,000. Then that 5,000 turned into 10, 20, 50, 150, a million, being the first whatever. And I'm not saying that that's negative. You just also have to understand that that's intangible and that's not something you're in control of, and that those can be goals, but they cannot be what you measure success by. And on top of that, if you're a person of color and you believe that you cannot have success unless you are white passing, if you believe you cannot have success unless you look like, sound like, are interested in all the same things that white people are interested in, you will never be successful because you have already you've already labeled what success is, and you do not look like success under your label. So how could you ever succeed? That is so fucking toxic and it's so dangerous. We can acknowledge that there are truths based off of specific categories, specific events, and specific target audiences. But you can also acknowledge that if your target audience isn't this person's target audience, then you may not have success with this person's target audience. But even then, understanding that you can't find success in somebody else's target audience, while that may be true, it's still based on fallacies because you still believe that you are all knowing about what this target audience likes, enjoys, or whatever. The truth of the matter is you cannot base success off of somebody else's intangible success. Like, this person's success ain't tangible. And yet you're basing your success off of some success that ain't even real. And I'm not saying that like somebody doesn't have big numbers. Obviously people do. Or like if we're going to be real and honest, yes, whiteness is highly successful on Booktube. But though that may be true, it is also true that it's unknown what you can do as someone who is non-white or who does not pass as white or someone who is whatever. It means that you have untapped fucking potential. It means that you do not have a roadmap, so bitch, get out your machete and carve a road. It means that you have no fucking clue where the roof is or where the ceiling is, because bitch, you ain't got one. And that has got to be the most freeing thing, which freedom is also highly fucking terrifying when it comes to success, because freedom means we are free to rise and free to fall. So I'm just saying, think on that. But when you unpack that kind of trauma online, when you take all of those frustrations and you don't work through them, and I say privately, but privately does not mean like in shame in your personal bedroom, don't talk to anybody else how you feel. When I say privately, I mean when you think about why something affects you the way it affects you. You can't really ask somebody else that question. I can't be like, hey, Janice, why am I upset? She's going to be like, bitch, I don't fucking know. So you've got to ask yourself these questions, and you've got to dig through the icky, ugly fucking feelings that come up with that. And then you've got to accept that you have those feelings about yourself. You don't have to accept that that is the truth. Because generally, the why we feel so upset about it is we know that it's not true. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not this enough. You know that that's not true, which is why you feel shame and guilt for thinking those things about yourself. Because, you know, whether you act on it or not, you are probably your biggest advocate. You're the person who loves yourself the most. And so when you don't treat yourself with the respect and the love that you deserve, there's so much shame and guilt that goes into that. So that's why it's always important, you know, love yourself, treat yourself, bitch, do yourself good justice. But that also means unpack your traumas with yourself. Spend your own time doing that. If that means getting a therapist, if you can, get a therapist. If you can afford a therapist, go to the library and check out a book. There are plenty fucking of them. You can find one that speaks to you. If you want a good recommendation, I know that there's one called Feeling Good that's been out for a really long time, and it deals with like depression, but it deals with unpacking toxic habits that go into that and recognizing those types of things. So go get it. If you can spare $8.99 a month on Scribd, I think there's an audiobook version of that on Scribd. If you can borrow somebody else's library card, you can put that on your own Libby app and you can loan it. Just don't be fucking up somebody else's library system, checking out all the fucking books, and they can't check out any books because then they will cancel that fucking card on you. So be respectful. Even if you live international, wherever, you know, like there are ways around stuff. You can buddy loan things. I don't believe that that is stealing. I believe that that is caring and community oriented. But all I'm saying is unpack those things with yourself. When you take your symptoms or your anger onto social media and you complain about it, you invite other people to complain about their own insecurities, which just validate your insecurities. And when you validate them, you feel like you don't have to do anything about them. It leaves you in a place of hopelessness. And you're just like, well, guess a bitch is going to be fucked up forever. And that is not good for mental health. That is creating an aesthetic for poor mental health that is not working through mental health. You get what I'm saying here? So I am not downing anybody for saying some shit on social media that they probably shouldn't have said. Everybody does it. That's the nature of the beast. All I'm saying is all this all this drama could be avoided if y'all understood and started categorizing what friendships mean to you and start understanding the levels of different kinds of friendships you can have. And if y'all stop unpacking your trauma online, that is all I got to say. So I don't know. I know this has been long and I know a bitch came back on a long video. That's probably the best. I know it's a little unorganized. It's just, I've got like thoughts in my head. I thought I'd sit down and talk about it and I haven't done this in a while. So I apologize for how messy this video is, how zoom my thoughts seem to be. So guys, leave a comment down below with your thoughts. Maybe with your thoughts will inspire another video that I can talk about. So do that, like and subscribe for assist. Make sure I get that money. Let me stop. There's no money in this. Like and subscribe. Leave some comments down below. And Sis will talk to you when she talks to you. TTYL, it's time for now. Bye.